Hey, it's me, and welcome back to another episode of Unfortunate Intersections. If you're watching this in the deep future, and this is one of the last surviving YouTube videos, this is the most consistent show on YouTube, and also, I am what the Bible is based on. Today's intersection is 16th and Wewatta streets in Denver. The past, okay. I guess we're doing a past, present, and future thing. Okay, let's get historical. The area between the South Platte River and Union Station used to be a rail yard, and, well, actually, let's get prehistorical. Okay, so Native Americans lived here, right? And I have zero doubt that it was an absolutely delightful place to live. But then America happened because white people found shiny things in the river, and boy, do we like shiny things. After we got all the shiny things out, we proceeded to treat the river like an open sewer and a toxic waste dump. And then we put a rail yard here because obviously no one wanted to live in the formerly delightful place that was now a toxic poop landfill river. Merca. Then, in the 60s or 70s, by the way, I didn't research this part. History's not important. So it was the 70s or 80s or whatever, and the rail yard was mostly gone because cars and suburbia, so the city decided to put gross, polluting industry downtown because that's where the black people live. Finally, the Y2K bug made downtowns cool again, so all the white people moved back, which is completely coincidentally, I'm sure. Also when the government decided to clean it up and make it delightful again. All cynicism aside, the redevelopment of the area between the South Platte River and Union Station is awesome. All the people who work their butts off to make it awesome are also awesome. I love you all. What's so awesome about it, you say? Well, this is the awesome commuter rail terminal, and this is the awesome light rail terminal. It's all connected above ground with an awesome pedestrian plaza and below ground with an awesome 22-bay bus concourse. And it's all surrounded by this awesome new transit-oriented development, which is adjacent to the awesome lower downtown historic district. But wait, there's more. This is the awesome 16th Street Mall, the longest or oldest or whatever pedestrian and transit street in the nation. It has the awesome free mall ride, a free shuttle that runs 24/7-ish on dedicated lanes from Union Station to Civic Center Station. As an early part of this whole redevelopment, this awesome pedestrian corridor was made even more awesome when it was extended over the freight tracks, the South Platte River, and I-25, which is double awesome because when does a city ever take a viaduct for cars and turn it into a completely car-free bicycle and pedestrian corridor? Never. The answer is never. Actually, Seoul did it, and Paris did it. The point is, when has an American city ever done that? Never. Prove me wrong in the comments. Finally, Riverfront Park and Tail Tracks Plaza are awesome public spaces named by very creative people. In conclusion, this part of town is awesome. There's so much awesomeness here! But, in the process of designing this demonstrably awesome neighborhood, somebody had to come in and slash and put these two massive strode scars right through the middle of it. But why though? Why did you have to destroy something so beautiful? Wewatta. Are we sure that's right? Did we research this? Okay. We are all having fun here. You've heard of bullshit asymmetry, right? It takes an order of magnitude more effort to refute bullshit than it does to spew it. Today, I'm coining the term strode asymmetry. It takes an order of magnitude more effort to undo the damage of a strode than it takes to build it. I know people have said they want me to talk about the shit show that is 17th and Wewatta, but because of the strode asymmetry, I have to take so much time unpacking the unfortunateness of these 8 blocks of strodes before I can even get to unpacking the unfortunateness of the intersection that we're talking about in the first place, and I have to do all that before I can even get to the auxiliary intersections. But seriously though, how much unfortunateness can 8 blocks of strodes really cause? Spoiler, it's a lot. Hey, it's me, with a quick reminder of how Unfortunate Intersections works. I make a video ripping an intersection I don't like a new butthole, and you leave me comments on the video on how you think it should be fixed. Then at the end of the next video, I put all your comments together as a free consultation for the DOT. So at the end of this video, I'll be going through all your comments on the 16th and Troy video, and at the end of the next video, I'll go through your comments from this video, and we'll see what we can do about 16th and Wewatta. Wewatta should not be 4 lanes. I feel like X Street should not be 4 lanes is going to be the catchphrase of this show, so, Brace yourself for that, or whatever. Wewatta was built with 4 lanes, so a lot of people can drive a lot of cars between Spear Boulevard and Park Avenue. I'm of the opinion that literally the middle of the largest transit hub for, 1,000 miles? Is not the place for a 4-lane strode designed for through traffic. Also, Wewatta was down to 2 lanes for years because construction, and it worked just fine that way, thank you very much. Compare this to Chestnut Street, 1 block away. The extra lanes on Wewatta mean less developable space, which is, the place where people live and work and shop and run businesses and pay taxes on those things. But instead of that, the city decided to put traffic lanes here, which cost taxpayer money to design and plow and clean. Hashtag traffic lanes don't pay taxes. These extra traffic lanes don't just lead to more traffic during rush hour, which means this TOD neighborhood has 2 hours a day of excessive cars and 22 hours a day of excessive speeding. Thanks, traffic engineers. That's just great. You'll notice that all 3 Strodelicious blocks of 16th are wider than the rest of them all. What did we gain from all that extra widening? We got 4 blocks of over-engineered lanes, and each one is its special flavor of unfortunate, which means I have to tear down each block individually, again, strode asymmetry. The root of the problem, I'm sure you'll be completely surprised to learn, is cars. Cars, cars, cars. Here a car, there a car, everywhere a car, cars fucking everywhere. A big question you might have, it's definitely a question I had, is why are cars even allowed on these 4 blocks of 16th Street? The reason is because there are porte cocheres here, here, and here. This means that, in addition to the bus-only lanes of the rest of the mall, the 1700 block has a single northwest-bound general-purpose car lane that widens to 2 lanes in the 1800 block. The 17 and 1800 blocks also have a southeast-bound bike lane, which I will be talking about later. And the 1800 block was widened even further for a landscape median, which I guess makes driving more pleasant. On top of all that, the 1900 block has 3 general-purpose lanes, 1 in each direction, and 1 left turn lane shared between the 2. The curb-to-curb width of this block, in one of the densest parts of the city, in the middle of a transit hub, is a blasphemous 70 feet wide, averaging 14 feet per lane. Let's put that 70 feet into perspective. Colfax at Washington is 56 feet wide, also has 5 lanes, and a bus stop! Okay, I want to make it explicitly clear that the official stance of unfortunate intersections is that bike lanes are good. They are good, and if you don't like them, you are bad, and you are defective, you are on the wrong side of history, and you're a disappointment to your mother. That being said, this bike lane is fucking weird, man. Arguably, the most important piece of cycling infrastructure in Denver is the Cherry Creek Trail 2 blocks away. Did the people who designed this bike lane imagine that commuters on the Cherry Creek Trail trying to get to Lodo would exit at Wewatta, ride in 4 lanes of Strodelicious through traffic for 2 blocks, including going a block out of their way to the northwest, just to turn right and take this bike lane to Winecoop? Obviously, they're going to exit the trail at Winecoop, a decidedly not through street that has much slower traffic. Or is it for cyclists coming over the Millennium Bridge? Did they expect the cyclists would take the lane on this 70-foot wide strode, casually ride across the most confusing stroder section in the city, then ride the largely unmarked left-hand bike lane for 2 blocks, and then walk their bikes along the rest of the 16th Street Mall where bike riding is not allowed? Obviously, the bike lane is a counter to the general purpose lanes in this direction that only exist to allow drivers to access to these porte cocheres, because otherwise cyclists would be able to ride in this direction but not this direction. But they're not allowed to ride their bike on the rest of the mall, so I don't know, part of me feels like a shitty bike lane is worse than no bike lane, but also I know there's a huge variability in the way that people cycle through cities. So this bike lane is going to be a big part of what I'm going to be asking you about at the end of this video when I'm asking for your improvements on this intersection. I haven't even gotten to the intersection yet. Jesus Christ. Okay, I've covered the 8 blocks of Stroads guards, which means now we have enough context that we can finally talk about the intersection. That's right, this episode is just getting started. So the first unfortunate thing was all the extra wide over-engineered lanes. The second unfortunate thing is just how mind-numbingly bad all of this unfortunateness was communicated to the driver. In your normal, everyday stroder section, drivers will mostly just get it because it's your normal, everyday stroder section. It follows then that if you're going to have a stroder section with a highly unusual arrangement of lanes, then extra measures need to be taken to communicate to drivers that this is in fact not your average everyday stroder section. And they need to pay extra attention to where they're allowed to drive, and more specifically, where they're not allowed to drive. Let's see how well that was accomplished. First up is the southeastbound bus-only lane on the 1800 and 1700 blocks. What sort of indication do drivers have that they're not supposed to drive here? Well, there is this no right turn sign. Oh, do you not see it? That's okay, because drivers don't either. It's the same thing coming from the other direction. There is this bus-only paint here, I guess, but it's painted far enough down the block that it's effectively useless. Turning northwest, it's not immediately, or for that matter at all, clear which lane to turn into or from. Because why would it be? Because of the dumb way cars were designed into this neighborhood, there has to be car access to these porte cocheres. So if that's the only reason there are cars on this block, why the need for a left-hand turn lane? Are there really that many cars coming and going from there? And the 1900 block with its 70 feet of wide-open tarmac just to get to parking garages encourages drivers to tear ass through at all sorts of angles, using plausible deniability to willfully ignore the sparse indications there are of where they're supposed to drive. Speaking of unnecessarily wide lanes, all this space encourages Uber and Lyft drivers to pull over and wait here, despite all the no parking signs. Also, why are they no parking signs and not no standing signs? I mean, is it a bus lane or is it not a bus lane? Did the city run out of no stopping signs? Do the rules matter or do they not? Tangent? What oh, the thing at Larimer and Spear. The signs here at least say no parking, standing or drop-offs. But I have seen drivers here all the time picking up and dropping off students and backing up traffic into the intersection. But why would drivers do that when there's a sign right there? Because design matters more than signs. Drivers see this extra wide lane and they're like, oh, there's room for me to do whatever the fuck I want. Why? Why would you design a street that encourages people to misbehave? I swear to God, this is the kind of dumb shit that makes me want to pull my hair out. Engineers, help me out. Do you design streets like this knowing that drivers will misbehave on them? Or are you so incredibly out of touch with humanity that you think drivers are just going to follow whatever arrangement of signs and lanes that you put out at a given intersection like a bunch of ones and zeros moving through a computer program? I mean, come on. Like, it's got to be one or the other, right? Are you complicit or are you ignorant? Or am I missing something? I just want to understand why. Oh man, that can't be right. I have so much more to say about traffic engineers. First of all, I think traffic engineers are a real bunch of... Yeah, it's probably better I don't say anything more on record. You're a good friend. 17th and Wewatta. Got there is the actual worst because Wewatta crosses this otherwise awesome pedestrian street literally in the middle of the transit hub. It's stupid and it's bad and it's the worst thing to happen from all of this. There is so much pedestrian traffic here, so much beautiful pedestrian space, and then bam! Car sewer. Next! Why? Why the fuck is the stoplight here and not here? Is it a pedestrian street or is it not a pedestrian street? What the actual sex? Next! 18th and Chestnut. Drivers simply do not pay enough attention to look at this signal and make sense of it. Have you ever been in a car? Advance! Remember the weird-ass bike lane that's weird enough that people don't want to use it? Well, it has a dedicated left turn signal at Wine Coop. Again, bike lane's good, but when the bike left turn is green, it creates this weird situation where all cars and buses have a red light and pedestrians have a do not walk sign all at the same time. And because no one uses the bike lane, pedestrians are reasonably all like, why is no one going? I guess I'm gonna cross. But then, while the flood of pedestrians is in the crosswalk, the light for cars on Wine Coop turns green and drivers are suddenly angrily honking at the pedestrians who are in the crosswalk. Stop designing cities from behind a desk. I actually made a whole video on why these two blocks, including this intersection, shouldn't even exist in the first place. Proceed! This is just your average everyday Strode intersection, but in the middle of downtown. It's dangerous and uncomfortable for everybody involved, and it's the wrong type of intersection for an urban environment, and yeah, that's probably fine. I don't need to start a whole new intersection to section in the middle of a different intersection to section. If this is your first unfortunate intersection, you have to fight. Okay, I 1010% believe that if the powers that be came into redeveloping this area with a pedestrian-first mindset, the integrity of the car-free 16th Street Mall, for example, could have been maintained from Civic Center Station all the way through to the bridge over I-25. There were absolutely ways to design this neighborhood without needing cars on these 3 blocks of the 16th Street Mall, and the fact that there are cars here is a travesty. That being said, it doesn't really matter at this point because these are the porte cocheres we have and this is the wall-to-wall street width we have, and these things are not going to change. So at this point, I don't think it's worth the effort to design what could have been. What I am interested in is what you think is the best way forward. What is the best way to utilize the existing space, accommodate the existing porte cocheres, And this is the tricky bit, how can that fix be accomplished by using design first and in signage second? There's some obvious things like Wewatta should not be 4 lanes, but this is what I'm really struggling with. Bike lanes are awesome. Bus lanes are awesome. But I feel like separating each of the 4 modes on these blocks is over-engineering. Is it over-engineering, or are completely separated modes the best use of the space? I'm curious, and let's be honest here, a little turned on to see what you come up with. When it comes to your ideas for improvements, words are good, images and diagrams are great. They don't have to be fancy. This is YouTube, not an engineering document. I want to give a quick, relevant personal life update. I no longer live in Denver, which is why there's no live footage of the intersection. I wrote the first draft of this script 3 years ago when I did live in Denver, but before I had a black hole level mental health implosion and had to move back into my childhood trailer park in Smallsville, flyover state. At the time, my choice was either move back in with my parents or become homeless in Denver. It was a close call, but I moved in with my parents and then of course got stuck there because 2020. Right now I'm accidentally living in Costa Rica because I inherited a house here. Long story, but if it wasn't for inheriting this house, I don't know how else I would have gotten back out of the trailer park of my youth after getting stuck there again as an adult. I'm so excited to be in a place where I can restart this channel because I have so many things that I want to say and I need to get them out of my head and out into the world. Anyway, one of those things that I really want to say is this. Hey, men. Go to therapy. Yes, you do. You were raised in a culture that glorifies toxic masculinity. There's no way that didn't fuck you up, at least a little bit. Stop being a pussy and go to therapy. Thank you so much for all of your comments on the first video. Really, I was more than a little concerned when I put it out that it was just going to be crickets in the comments and I would end up with that awkward nobody came to my birthday party feeling. So thank you. I really enjoyed reading through your comments and your personal experiences with the intersection like this one. Thank you for sharing. Some of the comments were lost to time, and I'm sorry if that was yours. Here's to it not taking 3 years this time. And at this point, if you haven't seen the original 16th and Troy video, you need to go watch that now. There's a link in the subway. Here's a quick rundown of what happened after I posted the video. The city of Aurora replied to me on Twitter and washed their hands of any responsibility by saying, the intersection is entirely private. The reality may be that they have no legal capacity to do anything about it, but just because it's legal doesn't mean it's not unfortunate. The city forwarded my video to their contact at the medical campus, who immediately did something about it by taking down the caution tape and putting up some signage that drivers just completely ignore. Hey, it's me again. I want to give credit where credit is due. I don't know who within the labyrinthine institutional hierarchy of a giant medical campus put these signs up, but thank you. Signage is absolutely better than no signage. I especially like these signs smack in the middle of the street. But as I can see from street view, the intersection geometry means they get crushed or simply moved out of the way and require what I assume is an unsustainable level of attention and maintenance, and is why they are often altogether missing. Whoever you are, I'm sure you did as much as you can within the constraints of crippling bureaucracy. My criticisms are not with you, but with the institutional leadership, because every problem is a leadership problem. On behalf of everybody who uses the intersection, thank you. Also, my video got me on the news again. Okay, several people pointed out that I completely half-assed my fix of the intersection at the end of that video, and they're right. I don't even know why I included a fix. That's not how I want unfortunate intersections to work. Do I really look like a guy with a plan? It was pointed out that the bulbouts should be a lane further into 16th. Again, this is correct. Taking it to the next level, u/Sir JJ Eck, first of his name, shared this graphic in a comment on Reddit. At first I wasn't sold on the traffic island, traffic circle situation, but the more I thought about it, the more I liked it. Much better than my fix. It would force drivers to be more aware of their surroundings and not just roll through stop signs. Alan Redwick commented that a parking lane or bike lane would be a good fit for the outside lanes on 16th, and I think either of those would be a great use of space. Someone who wanted to remain anonymous sent me this graphic on Facebook showing Troy closed altogether south of 16th. This is starting to think outside the box, and I am here for that. Moonlight Fox TV also commented and suggested closing Troy south of 16th. But more importantly, they said something just so beautiful. Most of what we think about in rocket science is how something can go wrong. Sounds like that thought never crossed the minds of anyone involved. This is such a good point. And as soon as I finished wrapping my head around it, we're going to talk about it. So as much as I tried, I could not come up with a perfect fix because cars ruin everything. But I agree that the best short-term fix is to close the 2 outside lanes of 16th. Here is how you do that. Install bollard bulb outs at the intersection, and not the cheapest, floppiest bollards that you find on Amazon. Don't think for a minute that I won't fly out to Denver just to call your bollards flaccid, because I will. Then take the outside lanes and restripe them as parking and bus stops. You get more parking, your patients will be happier, drivers will be happier. Hold on, wait a minute. How will removing a traffic lane make drivers happy? Well, hold on to your butts, and we'll get there. And because it is a private intersection, I imagine the only approval you will need to get for any of this is from RTD about the length and placement of the bus stops. While you're at it, close off this part of Troy and make the intersection a 3-way stop. This will drastically cut the number of turns drivers can make, which would not only make the intersection safer for pedestrians, but would also simplify and thus improve vehicle traffic flow through the intersection. And please, for the love of God, paint some giant fuck-off crosswalk stripes at the intersection already. To be completely honest, it's such bullshit that you haven't repainted the one that you scraped off. Seriously? Fuck you a little bit for not doing that. Okay, it's getting hot in here. Let's back up a little bit. The root of the problem with this intersection is the same as the root of the problem with a lot of intersections. Pedestrians legally have the right of way, right? And drivers and pedestrians both know that, at least in theory. But because of the way the intersection is laid out and painted, or not painted as the case may be, it feels like drivers have priority. This creates a situation where pedestrians approaching the intersection feel uncomfortable, like they're not supposed to be there. Then stop at the curb and give the drivers who are rolling up to the crosswalk "You're not going to run me over, are you?" And the drivers glare back at them and with a "Just go already," and the whole system breaks down. Often pedestrians will feel so uncomfortable with a giant vehicle looming over the crosswalk with a stranger at the helm that they will motion for the driver to go out of turn. Sometimes the pedestrian even waives their right of way by waving a driver into another pedestrian who did not waive their right of way. Everybody involved hates it and the whole system breaks down. Because the mode that legally has the right of way at the intersection is different from the mode that is designed to have priority at the intersection. The way to get the intersection to work smoother for all modes, including drivers, is to get these two things closer together, not farther apart, which is exactly what you did when you put up that caution tape and scraped the crosswalk off the street. And don't for a second give me any of that "if people would just" bullshit. I covered that already. If people were going to just, they would have already just. Having your facilities and maintenance department probably work on traffic engineering is like having one of your janitors administer a shot. Just because your janitor has had a lot of shots in her lifetime does not know that she knows how to administer a shot safely, or more importantly, what to do when something goes wrong. So just because your facilities and maintenance guy has driven a car for the last 30 years does not mean that he knows shit about how to design or manage an intersection. Clearly. So because you scraped the crosswalk lines off the street and put up that caution tape, you knew that there was a problem with the intersection. But for some reason, you thought the problem was a steady stream of your patients trying to get to the front door of your hospital and not the impatient drivers who were frustrated that patients existed at a hospital. The point is, pedestrians absolutely have the right of way. So if you design the intersection in a way that makes everybody, including drivers, feel like pedestrians have the right of way, you will reduce confusion and all modes will be able to move through the intersection faster and safer and happier. At any rate, please move beyond just thinking about where patients are going to park and start thinking about how they're going to get from their cars to the front door of the hospital. Because the way it's set up now is frustrating and dangerous. You can do better. I believe in you. Okay, holy balls am I happy to have this intersection done. Jesus Christ. Here's the teaser for the next episode. So get your suggestions in now for 16th and Wewatta. And remember, every time you hit that subscribe button, a driver gets a flat tire and has to take the bus.